Hello, Culture Matters podcast. We are back with another culture topic. If you follow me on Instagram, Jay Doran underscore the culture man for culture topics on business, leadership, culture, etc. 1, 2, 3 minute snippets. I'm unpacking one of the topics in a much longer, broader dialogue, which today is transform your workplace with three culture hacks, these three culture hacks. Number one, rules are meant to be broken. That's number one. Rules are meant to be broken. You want to transform your culture with three culture hacks. Number two, don't use techniques. So wait, transform your workplace with these three culture hacks. Yeah. Rule number two, don't use techniques. Don't use hacks. Rule number one, rules are meant to be broken. The third hack, refer to rule one. Now, wait, if rule one is rules are meant to be broken, and rule two is don't use techniques, and this is three culture hacks or techniques to transform your culture, what is the point? Well, the point is conscience. There are variables to culture. We could talk about story or language or symbolism or mediums, rituals, blah, 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 blah. The reason the first rule is break the rules and the second rule is don't use techniques is because somewhere between using techniques and not using techniques is the answer. Because the thing with culture is if you don't want to be manipulating people. You're not trying to throw in pizza parties and gatherings and share emotional stories about who you once were if it's not real, if it's not authentic, if it's just used as some way to quote unquote align the people, e.g., control the people. It's not culture. It's something else. Manipulation and influencing people to get them to certain places you'd like them to be. It's not real. It's political. It's ideological, rather. It's something else, something dark. You want so somewhere between there are no techniques for culture, there are no hacks, and there are, but be very careful when using them. If you're going to tell your story, because you want people to be closer to you. So you're being vulnerable because it's actually scary to share. That's going to lead to people trusting you. If you also demonstrate over time competence in something your team admires and respects, aspires to, character in the ability to maintain long-lasting relationships, in the demonstration that people that the relationships matter more than the relationship between you and another is more important than just what you want from a relationship. So if we're going to talk about customer service, sometimes we have to invest into our customers for the long term of the relationship so that the customer is better off than us if we're an organization. Transforming the workplace and relegating it down to hacks or techniques or things that will work to get the culture right, it's a very dangerous road because culture is culture's people. And people need to be listened to, people need to be heard, people need to be inspired, people need direction. We all need something to live for that's bigger than ourselves. At the same time, we need to live for ourselves in the sense we need our own personal goals. We need our own aims. We need our own and we need our own fears, and we need our own desires, and we need our own uh, impulse, and as well as the ability to uh, relegate that impulse. It's constant, yin and yang, right and wrong, virtue, vice. So the three hacks are rules are meant to be broken. Don't use techniques. Refer to rule number one. How does that make any sense? It's going to be conscience. It's going to be following your integrity, that little voice inside of your head of what the right answer is. What's the right thing to do? Now, this is the thing, that little voice inside your head might be so quiet, you can only hear it through your enemies. You can only hear it through the critics. You can only hear it through people that you don't like. Now, that's a scary proposition because that means you might not actually hear it at all, nor listen to people that you don't like, that you consider enemies, that you consider wrong, that you consider worth hating. That's why. That's why. That's where the world's messed up. That's one of the reasons. That's why if you're listening to this, choose love. Choose a little love. Call that person that you don't want to call. Apologize. Forgive them. Give yourself a break. You want to transform your culture? Start with yourself. There's there's a chapter in Beyond Order about, I think it's notice that opportunity lurks where responsibility's been advocated. I think that's it. If someone's not doing their job, if your boss is not doing their job and your work life is miserable, rather than just checking out and becoming disengaged and hating your life and just complaining and blaming, and show up tomorrow and be the best possible employee you can be. Make a plan, sacrifice, stick to it, do it for you, do it for the betterment of who you can be. Watch what happens. You might actually elevate to a higher level of leadership and get recognized by others in your organization to move forward. You have a partner, things aren't working out, you're fighting, you don't know how to communicate in your business. Get to work. Get to work. Do the best you possibly can. You're going to be transformed. Don't be irresponsible in reaction to other people's irresponsibility. If you're being responsible with your words and your actions and your thoughts, and you're holding other people to account and they're not listening, you've said what you could say. You've given your all. You put it all on the playing field. It might not work out for you in the short term. The truth might hurt so bad. You might lose it all, but somewhere between telling the truth, living the truth, like if you're really doing everything that you could possibly do in actions, indeed, and you're telling the truth, you're doing the best you can in your actions, your words, and your thoughts, and you lose everything, you'll gain so much more. You have to have faith. Transforming your workplace is done with responsibility. It's done through truthfulness. It's done through ambition and vision and strategy. It's done through listening. It's done through, it's the nuance. It's conscience. It's what are your values and are you living them? And you're going to know if you're living them based on how you live them in respect to those that you think aren't. That's the key. Don't play victim or moral superiority. Use your values to help the person you think isn't. So rules are meant to be broken. Don't use techniques. Refer to rule one. Those are the three hacks. Now, if you're living in a way that is, you've done the work, you've studied, you've prepared, you've shown up, you're experienced, you're engaged, you will know when to break the rules. You've earned the ability to break the rules because your conscience is clear. You've lived in alignment with your words and your thoughts. You've earned the right. You'll have no dead bodies in that in your backyard. You'll be able to stand up for what is true because your conscience is clear. So you want to transform your culture, get your conscience clear, transform your character, and show up and do your work. Go all in. And if you're the founder of an organization, you're the CEO. That's your job. You transform the culture every day with your words, your thoughts, your deeds. You transform the culture with who you attract to the organization, how you work with them, and how you reprimand and how you invite people off the bus. It's not an easy job. It's all consuming. It's a great sacrifice. And that's where the compensation comes in. That's where the reward comes in. There's an equally proportional reward for the sacrifice. In fact, the reward might be exponentially greater than the sacrifice. In one context, like in that economic, like how does that person make that much? Well, at the same time, if they're giving their whole life for the company, they're never getting their life back. And the worst thing is when you see companies where the people that get the least reward are given their life, their time, their intellectual property, they're suffering, they're giving it, and they're not getting rewarded in accordance with that suffering because the people above them in authority and influence and power are entitled and deceitful and just lazy and just not sacrificing. That's messed up. And that happens. Don't be that person. Follow me on Instagram, Jay Doran _ the culture man. You want 3 hacks to transform your culture? You got to break the rules. Don't use hacks. Rules are meant to be broken. Refer to rule number 1. Follow your conscience. Listen. Tell the truth. Live your values. Write down your values. Ask people around you, hey, how well do I live to these values? I will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast.